It's coming from behind the sun, and it's so it makes it difficult to detect. And that this object is in a direct line to come to Earth in 2027.
3i Atlas is 1 million times more massive, at least 1 million times more massive than Oumuamua.
Right.
October 2017. Astronomers detect the first confirmed object from outside our solar system. They name it Oumuamua. It doesn't behave like anything we've ever seen. Now, there's another one, ATLAS, 7 miles across. And what Joe Rogan just uncovered about its trajectory might change everything we thought we knew. So, you know that Harvard guy, right? Avi Loeb? He's like, legit, chair of astronomy. Published hundreds of papers. And he's saying Oumuamua might be alien tech. Most scientists were like, oh yeah, it's probably just a comet or whatever. But then, no tail. Comets have tails when they get near the sun. The ice heats up, creating this vapor trail. Everyone knows this. But Oumuamua? Nothing. And it's accelerating. Like pushing away from the sun without any visible propulsion. No jet stream, no gas, nothing. Just moving. Loeb's thinking, wait, what if it's a light sail? You know, like those sci-fi concepts where you reflect sunlight off a thin surface to move through space. We're actually developing that tech right now. But here's the thing, it's tumbling, spinning every 8 hours, and its brightness changes by a factor of 10. That means it's flat, really flat, like a football field floating through space. And then they found another one, C2023A3. They're calling it ATLAS, and this thing it's way bigger, 7 miles wide, like bigger than Mount Everest, twice the size of Kilimanjaro. Just this massive object flying through space at 130,000 miles per hour. And Joe Rogan's on his podcast, and someone brings it up, and he's like, wait, what? There's another one? Yeah, another one. But here's where it gets weird.
The odds of this thing being in the trajectory that it is, entering into our solar system in a direct path with Earth.
It's coming from outside our solar system, just like Oumuamua. But the path it's taking? It's coming from behind the sun, which makes it really hard to detect until it's, already here. And the timing of when we could have gotten clear images of it. That's when the government shut everything down. So, the government shut down. You remember that, right? It just so happened to coincide with when we could use the satellites on Mars to get pictures of this thing. Like, what are the odds of that? Joe's sitting there going, wait a minute. The government shutdown is stopping us from getting pictures of this thing. And yes, that's exactly what happened. Now, they did release one image. The Europeans got something, and it looks, I don't know, it looks weird, but I don't know what a comet's supposed to look like. So maybe it's normal, but people are saying it's rolling in a strange way. And then, get this, a couple of weeks ago, Trump signs this executive order. Quietly, redesignates NASA as a spy agency. Like, what? The order says NASA will now have as a primary function intelligence, counterintelligence, investigative, or national security work. Not space exploration, not science. Spying. And you know what's really weird? Jeremy Corbell, the UFO guy, he said months ago, a bunch of people are going to start saying there's a mothership coming to Earth. Don't believe them. How did he know that? How did he know people would start saying that before? All right, so Avi Loeb comes on the podcast and he explains it like this. I'm a scientist. I follow evidence, just like Sherlock Holmes. And Oumuamua? It doesn't add up. First object ever detected from interstellar space, moving too fast to be bound to our sun. Everyone assumed, okay, it's like the rocks we've seen before. Comets, asteroids, whatever. But when a comet gets close to the sun, The ice evaporates, creates a tail, pushes the object like a rocket. That's just physics. Oumuamua had the push, but no tail. The Spitzer Space Telescope looked for any traces of gas or dust behind it. Nothing. Zero. So Loeb's thinking, what else could create that push? And the only thing that makes sense is reflecting sunlight. A light sail. But for that to work, the object has to be really thin, like paper thin. And remember, it's tumbling. Brightness changing by a factor of 10 every 8 hours. You know what does that? A flat object, something with extreme geometry. About the size of a football field, thin, accelerating without fuel. Now, here's the kicker. In September 2020, astronomers found another object doing the exact same thing. Extra push, no tail. They traced it back and figured out it was actually a rocket booster from one of our lunar missions, kicked into space decades ago. So we know artificial objects behave exactly like this, and Oumuamua came from outside our solar system. So back to ATLAS. This new one, scientists gave what they're calling a chilling update. That's the actual term they used, chilling. The object is roughly 7 miles in diameter, larger than they initially thought. The largest interstellar object ever spotted. And Avi Loeb's looking at it going, this could be artificial. This could be a spacecraft. But then you got Chris Lint, astronomer from Oxford. And he's pissed. He says any suggestion that it's artificial is nonsense. Nonsense on stilts. He called it an insult to the work being done to understand the object. But like, Harvard's legit, right? Avi Loeb isn't some random conspiracy guy. He's published, he's peer-reviewed, he's respected. And the thing about ATLAS is it's coming from the same part of the universe where the wow signal came from. You know, that 72-second radio signal from 1977 that we never explained? Yeah, same area. That's weird, right? So people are starting to speculate. What if this is like a reset? Like maybe advanced civilizations watch planets? And when things get too chaotic, takes over. Nuclear weapons, whatever. They just start over. Launch something big. Wipe the slate clean. Just like the dinosaurs. And speaking of weird, there's this story Mr. Balin covered. A Mexican pilot in the 70s. Guy's flying, falls into some kind of trance, wakes up over the ocean, has no idea how he got there. The fuel doesn't match the distance. And there's a recording of him channeling something. This voice coming through him saying, humanity is the only intelligent species in the universe that still uses war. That we have to stop, or someone's going to step in. That was decades ago. And now we got a 7-mile object heading our way and the government's blocking images. Now, here's where things get really interesting. There's this theory called Panspermia. The idea that life doesn't just start on planets randomly. It spreads through space, on asteroids, comets, meteorites. These objects carry the building blocks of life from one world to another. And with Oumuamua being the first confirmed interstellar visitor, scientists started asking, has this been happening for billions of years? A researcher named David Cow led a study on this. High school kid, actually, genius level. And he calculated how many interstellar objects could have hit Earth during the first 800 million years after the planet formed, before life appeared. They built mathematical models, factored in radiation from supernovas, gamma-ray bursts, cosmic rays. All the things that would sterilize these objects as they travel through space. The probability that panspermia brought life to Earth? About 0.001%. Sounds low, right? But here's the thing. If you expand that across the entire galaxy, across billions of years, they estimate roughly 100,000 habitable planets could have life seeded this way. And if these objects are still flying around, still carrying biological material, what exactly is ATLAS carrying? But here's the problem nobody's talking about. There's no plan. A guy named John Gertz wrote a paper called Interstellar Diplomacy, and he's asking the question, what happens if we detect a probe that's actually trying to communicate with us? Who responds? The US? Russia? China? The UN? What if one country decides to answer on its own and speaks for all of humanity? There's no international treaty, no protocol, nothing. We're in the golden age of detecting these things, but we have zero preparation for what comes after. And ATLAS is getting closer, every single day. So what happens when it arrives?